Well, hello everybody, this is Podcast Being Gonzalez. Welcome to my channel. I am on my way to work. Yesterday I had to get washer fluid because my car was I think I need to get my car to a car wash because it's very dirty from I think salt. When you drive in the snow, when they salt the roads, all the car splashes in water, it has some salt. I think there's some salt in my car. And I don't think it's going to be raining anytime soon. I think more chances are more likely there's going to be more snow at some point or another this year. Hopefully, I think this winter has been very mild. We barely got any snow last year or in December, November to December. There was barely no snow, which is fine. I don't know how January is going to be, and we're still in the winter season. So at least until March. And maybe even past March too, because sometimes up here, sometimes you get snow in March too, sometimes even in April, at least in this area. But I haven't seen much snow in here in the capital district, Albany, Troy area. So I'm on my way to work, but I'm going to try to stop and see if I can get a wood canvas so I can make another dice tray, because I had a person that wanted a dice tray with a specific color, so I already made one of the colors that they wanted, so I have to make the other one. So I will be working on that later today, tomorrow morning probably, so I can have that ready to be given to them sometime Saturday. I also have to ship one by mail, and I'm getting rid of some of the dice trays that I have made because I somehow became obsessed making dice trays. Don't know why. Became obsessed with trying to make dice tray, but that was before the pandemic hit. And before the pandemic hit, I was going to game events and all that kind of stuff at my local game store. I was playing D&D encounters. I was even running at some point. When we didn't have a DM showing up, I had books that had adventures in them, so I was running some of the games, and not anymore. Not anymore. Yeah, not anymore. I want to run again. I would love to run again. There are some games that I love running. D&D is fun to play, and I like running adventures. It's fun to play the game master, but also it requires. At least I'm glad that there exist modules that you don't have to do too much preparation. You just have to read the module to know what's going to happen and the enemies, all the kind of stuff. But it doesn't require too much preparation. If you are running a homebrew campaign, it requires more building the world, the story, and hopefully the players are not going to get distracted doing something else, and they will be able to get to where they need to be for the adventure and the campaign to work out. Otherwise, yeah, you may have to improvise things out of the blue. So definitely, like I said before, I was playing in person, but during the pandemic, I stopped playing Dungeons and Dragons. I've been playing mostly video games, and then what I've been doing. Oh yeah, I got invited recently last year. A friend of mine who lives in New Jersey, I think, New York City area, invited me to play in their campaign, and I've been playing since then, and it's been so far. I'm having fun. It's different because I didn't start with a character at level 1. It would have been more interesting to start with a character at level 1 and see how far I can go. But still, I have enjoyed it. I started at level 10. I've been playing a druid, which usually I don't play druids in D&D. I don't play spellcasters. Most of the time I usually tend to go with fighters, barbarians, monks, like my original character back when I started playing D&D. And this is, I'm talking about early 90s, when I was in college, when I got in college. And that's when I started playing, in around 1993. And I remember the first book that I purchased for D&D was 1993. I graduated from high school. My dad decided that we would go to Disney one more time, and we went to Universal Studios and all that kind of stuff. On the way back, before we got to the airport, we decided to stop at a mall, and I went to a Borders, and I find out the Dungeons and Dragons. I asked my dad for money, and they gave me here in case you want to purchase something. I'm like, okay, and he gave me a $20 bill. And back then, the RPG games were relatively cheap. Now they're like 50, maybe more for an RPG game. But back then they were like about $20 for an RPG game. And I remember my dad gave me some money, and I went to a Borders in a mall near Orlando area. I think it was Orlando, yeah, because the airport was in Orlando. So yeah, I decided to purchase the game of Dungeons and Dragons, and it was a Dungeons and Dragons Rules Encyclopedia, which to this day I still have that Rules Encyclopedia. It has gotten old because I've used it when I was younger, and I didn't care about like whether it was the damage, but I still have it. I can still play it and read it. It's very interesting. And before, back in the day, it was Dungeons and Dragons, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then you had Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So there were two things. It was Dungeons and Dragons was very basic. They were not compared to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons didn't have it had race classes. And wow, just for that. Okay, sorry, the car just got into me, and like people like to drive and do crazy things. Anyway, so back in the day, like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and you will choose a race, give you pluses in number of like attributes, pluses and minuses, and then you could choose a class. And sometimes if you were demi-human, like elf or a dwarf or a halfling, you could choose to be multi-class, and that would be fine too. You can choose like multiple classes and go at that open level at the same time. With Dungeons and Dragons, the original Dungeons and Dragons, you couldn't do that. You were a fighter, you were considered human. You were a cleric, you were considered human. You were a thief, you were considered human. You were a wizard, you were considered human. You were an elf, it was like a hybrid of a fighter, magic user. And if you were a dwarf, it was pretty much a fighter. If you were a halfling, it was almost like a hybrid of a thief, fighter. So those were the race classes. There were some other classes, and there was one that it was called the Mystic, which is kind of like similar to the Monk in D&D. I think that was a precursor of the Monk in D&D 3.0. It was a Mystic. Again, it was a human. There were rules there were no Advanced Dungeons and Dragons had weapon and non-weapon proficiencies that didn't exist in D&D, but they had something very cool that I like about Dungeons and Dragons. It was a weapon mastery, actually, that you could use like the optional rules that you could become weapon master. So if you use 1 point on skill for a weapon, you could become a master in a weapon. It will give you like different skills and abilities and all that kind of stuff. And then there were some non-weapon proficiencies or skills that you could add to the campaign. Again, it was different how they work then to how they work now. But they were optional. They were not. You did not need it to have those things. The basic game was very basic, and there was also a red box that you could purchase and that had the same rules that the rules encyclopedia had that I purchased. And pretty much again, like the game was very basic as it can be. It was. I still tried playing it a few times, but there was not too much of an interest in that game because the people were more used when I got into college to play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons because of the ability to customize the characters. And 3.0, when it first came out, I think that was a thing that I enjoyed the most about 3.0 was the fact that you can customize your character, that you don't have to make a character that is going to be the same as the other character, that allows you to customize your skills, your abilities, and things like that. But I feel like Dungeons and Dragons back then you could still do it, but like it required to use a little bit more of the optional rules of the game. So again, I used to play before, and before there were no dice trays and all that kind of stuff. I've learned how, if I figured that out, like, oh, my dice are keep rolling out of the table, I would have created dice trays back then. And I would have tell my dad, hey, give me some woodworking equipment so I can make dice trays, and maybe practice those skills back in the day. Not now as an adult, I think I would enjoy doing that, but. So I think it would have given me other skills back then, and I don't know. I was focused on college and like things like that, not learning how to work with trades. I think woodworking would have been interesting career path, in my opinion, especially in Puerto Rico, But yeah, so I couldn't choose that down there. So, but it's still fun now that I decided to make dice trays. It's just like I want to make dice trays to see if somebody was interested in my gaming groups, but again, I haven't gotten into in-person games in a while. So now I have a bunch of like dice trays and things that I'm trying to convert into a dice tray, and I'm trying to get rid of them. So I decided to post pictures on a website, and people were surprisingly, to my surprise, people found it neat, and they wanted to have some of the trays that I have made. So it's great because I'm clearing the trays that I have, but I didn't expect that somebody was going to ask me, hey, can you make one this specific color? So now I have to get materials to make one for a specific color, which is neat, because I like making things. So I get to make one for a person. Like I did not expect that my dice trays there would be people interested in them, So, and they're not like I'm not working the wood. I'm already purchasing the wood canvas already made. I'm just painting it, cutting the felt, and you get a neat dice tray. They're cheap. They're not like expensive to make. Anybody can make them, and if I had wood equipment, if I had more space, I would actually make the trays with the wood myself. I also wish I had a different way of making the trays instead of using wood, maybe plastic or a polymer or something like that would be more lighter. I also like the fact that there are some trays that you can actually that are more portable than the wood trays, because wood trays, they will take space, but there are some that they're made out of like leather, or I think it's fabric, and they are flat most of the time, but then you can snap on the sides, and it makes a nice crawling area for dice. So those seem cool, but like I think those are a little bit more difficult to work. I think I might have to either teach myself how to sew or leather work, which I'm not very good with leather. So, but the wooden trays, they're cute. They look alright, especially the wood canvases, they look alright. They're not difficult to make, and they're relatively cheap to make, and like I said, I just like making them. So it's nice for me to have something that I can make and give to people. So yeah, so I'm about to go to Michael's, and then I'm going to go to work. I work 1 to 10 today, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Peace, everybody. I'm about to arrive at Michael's here at the Rensselaers Square Shopping Center. Anyway, peace, everybody. Stay safe.